Excited about our next guest. We have with us Dr. Keith Clinkscales, directly from sunny Florida. And Keith has been in the industry for a long time. And then after 8 years and 2 decades of management consulting in operational excellence, Keith is now the Director of Strategic Planning and Performance Management for Palm Beach County, Florida. He's responsible for helping over 30 departments, county administration, and the Board of County Commissioners progress with strategic alignment and performance improvement. Keith, I'm so looking forward to your presentation about how we are using these approaches to change and transform the way we govern and the way that we actually make progress in our institutions.
I am happy to be here, Jose. This is an honor, and I'm pretty excited. So, would you like me to begin?
Please go ahead.
So guys, listen, this is going to be a little bit of a different type of presentation because I want to talk about your attitude. I want to talk about your organizational attitude. You know, the previous presentation was fantastic, awesome in terms of how do we actually go about automating and doing BPM. But if you don't have the people, if the people don't have the right attitude, that's very difficult to do. So this presentation is a little bit different. I want to talk about your attitude, your people's attitude, and it's no longer easy to just focus on programs, process improvement, and systems. We have to talk about people and how do we develop our people. Most solutions, you know, we all come sort of from a operational excellence background, but most of the time we tend to focus on the process and the systems. But I want to talk a little bit about the people in your organization and you as a person, a leader within your organization. Because if we can begin to change the attitudes, we can change people, we can change performance, and ultimately change the culture. Imagine trying to implement some of the things that Kamuna was talking about if you have with an organization with all the wrong attitudes. He talked about legacy. What if you have legacy attitudes where they don't want to change? We have to begin to work on the people. Now, I understand this is sort of touchy-feely, but look at this. It's one of the major components: processes, systems, and people. If you want to truly transform your organization culturally, you have to transform their attitudes. They have to begin to think differently. You have to invest as much as you do in process and systems as you do in people development. I want to ask you something. Think about when you were 18 years old. If you could go back to your 18-year-old self and give a piece of advice, what would it be? Now, I did this recently with myself, and that's me at Boston University College of Engineering. And I said, if I can go back and talk to my 18-year-old self, I would tell them, Keith, you need to have a really good attitude in every situation that you approach. You have to be willing to think out of the box. You have to think broad scale. You have to look at all of the angles, and you have to look at the good in every situation. A problem is just something that needs to be solved. It's an opportunity. So your attitude will determine your altitude. And let me talk a little bit about what we've done at Palm Beach County. Now, when I came to Palm Beach County, I had an awesome task because there's 35 plus departments and there were tons of silos. All of the departments were operating suboptimally, very, very good within their silo, within their department. But in order to do process automation and some of the things that we've talked about at IPBM, you have to be able to break down the silos and get people to work together. And they have to have good attitudes in order to do that. So I started immediately engaging the departments and getting them to work around the 6 strategic priorities of the county. I began trying to change their attitudes. We talk about how do we make work more like Disney World. We talk about celebrating greatness in everyone. We talk about thinking out of the box, coming with innovative solutions, breaking down silos, and working together first before we begin to add technology and process and nuances to the organization. So what about your attitude? What is an attitude? I want you to walk away with two major key concepts. Your attitude reflects behavior. The attitude of your people reflect behavior, and your attitude, say it another way, affects performance. Optimal performance. Are you truly getting optimal performance from all of the team players in your organization? You can't control everything, and I try to coach leaders to help their people understand that you can't control every situation, but you can control you in the situation and how you respond. So I want you to think a little bit about what is shaping the attitudes of your people. What's shaping your attitudes? Religion, peers, family, teachers, coaches, past experiences, media, friends. Now, understand this. If these are the things that are affecting or shaping the attitudes of your organization, of the people in your organization, are you jumping straight to process automation and solutions and systems without understanding the attitudes of your people or the issues associated with the people that you're trying to do all of these innovative things with? We have to understand that everybody comes to the table with a set of preconceived notions or things that have shaped our attitudes about not changing, not wanting to change, not wanting to do things differently. So what shapes the attitudes in your organization? And are you doing anything to address or making sure that they have strong, positive attitudes? Is this coincidence or not? This is amazing to me. We often tell our children, get a good education, work hard. Do you ever tell your children or your employees to have a great attitude? Now, look at this sort of equation. If these are the alphabets and the numbers equal are tied to the alphabet, then knowledge equals 96, hard work equals 98, but attitude totals 100. I just thought that was interesting. Is that a coincidence or not? So you can get a lot done with hard work. You can get a lot done with knowledge. But if you have an organization full of bad attitudes, John Maxwell says it can bring down an organization and it can bring down a team. A good attitude requires looking at the entire picture from multiple angles. So what do you see? Just do nothing. Now what do you see? Just do nothing. It is impossible. But when you look from life at an entirely different angle, you see, just do it. Nothing is impossible. That's what we've tried to do here at Palm Beach County, is try to get people to look at the entire picture and realize that just do it. Nothing is impossible. We can do anything. You just have to be willing to look at things from other people's perspective. So your attitude actually will determine, and your people's attitude in your organization will actually determine, do they water their dreams, do they water their fears, or do they water their insecurities? If you don't face your fears, you're going to water them. Some people will focus and water their insecurities and weaknesses. I say that because, again, these are people in your organization who you're trying to actually use to actually improve and automate your systems and processes, but you're not dealing with their attitudes and the issues that they're bringing to the table. One of the things that I try to is so important is that not to have an attitude of blaming everyone else. When I walked around to all the different departments, and I spent a lot of time with the leadership here, um, sometimes you run across finger pointing, people blaming each other or departments blaming each other. It is so important that you are responsible for your happiness, your decisions, your reputation, your influence, your appearance, your choices, and also ultimately your behavior. And so I try to tell all of the people in the organization as I teach them that, listen, you guys own your future. You own your own success, and you own the success of your department. So having goals relieves stress. One day your life is going to flash before you. Make sure it's worth watching. Did you know that having goals and achieving them can actually help you have an awesome attitude? If you can get your organization, your department, your company to set goals and achieve them, you can actually change the attitude of the organization and ultimately change the environment. One of the things that we tend to run into when we're trying to do process improvement and improve an organization, we realize that a lot of people have a different perspective regarding success. John Maxwell says, help people to focus on their purpose as opposed to focusing on wealth and happiness and possessions. Knowing your purpose in life, growing to reach your maximum potential, and sowing seeds that benefits others. If you can actually cultivate that in your organization begins to thrive and you can do anything. 7 things you can use as guiding principles. So we've been teaching, we have about 6,700 employees in Palm Beach County. I talk about going after their dreams and not people. So you're not competing. Love yourself and the rest will follow. Never lose your sense of wonder. You are capable of more than you know. There are no regrets in life. Everything is for a reason, and you can learn from everything. Your only limit is yourself. And life goes by in a blink of an eye, so live life to its fullest. When I speak to majority of the people in the organization, and I'm sure this has to be the case in many of your organizations, that people are living for the weekend. They're tolerating Monday through Thursday. But you really want to get to the point where you cultivate an environment at work where the goal should be to live every day like it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Change your thinking. I try to get people to come to work at Palm Beach County thinking that you're coming to Disney World. What do we need to do to make your Monday through Thursday as enjoyable as vacation or as enjoyable as your Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? I know it sounds touchy-feely, but if you can change the attitude, change the mindset, change the environment of all the people in your organization, you can accomplish anything. So how do you change your attitude? You'll never change your life until you change something you do daily. Daily routine. Change your daily routine. Look at your daily routine. What do you do? What do you need to change? Seriously, go home tonight and think about your daily routine and what. And I'm speaking to you, but I'm also speaking to something that you could take back to your people. Ask them what in the daily routine needs to change in order for them to have a more exciting role at work. Expecting things to change in your organization or in yourself without putting in any effort is like waiting for a ship at the airport. They have to be willing to get to change and want to change. So how bad do you want it? How bad do you want your organization to change? Are we truly focused on just process automation, systems, and technology? but we don't want to change the mindset and the attitude and the environment of our people, because that's where true cultural change comes from. Here's a few examples. Why it's important to change your attitude. Refusing to change can actually yield to missed opportunities. Netflix did not kill Blockbuster. Uber did not kill the taxi business. Amazon did not kill other retailers. Airbnb isn't killing the hotel industry. Some of these industries refuse to change their mindset. They refuse to change their attitude. They refuse to change their way of looking at business. And so they were replaced. Success doesn't come from what you do occasionally, but what you do consistently. So we're talking about cultural change. We're talking about cultural transformation. Yeah, we can put in new processes. We can change the process. We can change the system. But if we do not address people development, training and leadership, getting people to think out of the box, be innovative in their thinking, bringing new ideas to the table, then you're not going to change culturally. You won't have cultural transformation. I always like this because I say that I tell my folks, you can't spell challenge without change. In other words, so many people fear change and fear doing things differently. But that's the challenge. That's the challenge. If you're going to rise to the challenge, you have to be prepared to change. So a lot of this was sparked through COVID and the county trying to deal with COVID. And we had to really educate the people to help with their attitudes. And I'm throwing this out there because there, with the challenges of the pandemic, we get bored, and we've had to learn to pivot, and we've had to learn to keep a good attitude in the midst of all that we're going through, and still provide excellent service. So I shared this with a number of employees, things to do when you are bored. Because when you're bored, you actually have you're not optimal. You have attitude issues, and so we've tried to help our people work on their attitude by giving them some suggestions on what to do when they're bored. Good attitude ingredients. I love this. I try to help people laugh more, party more, travel more, think more, advise more, care more, and love more. Care more and love more. We have all had a really, really tough 2020, but these are some of the things that actually have kept people with great attitudes, great work environment, great work ethics, and have still allowed us to provide excellent service to our customers and to our clients. Again, change the attitude, change the people, change the performance. I want to ask you a question. So children laugh 400 times a day. Adults laugh 15 times a day. What's wrong with that picture? Laughter is chicken noodle soup for the soul. Now, I'll ask you a question. I know we're talking about business process management and intelligent business process management, and how do we actually innovate using technology and systems. But take a step back and think about the people. What is your work environment like? Are people happy? Are they laughing? Do they enjoy bringing innovative ideas to the work? Because one of the questions that came up in the last session was, well, how do you do all of this if you have silos? How do you do all of this if you have organizational issues? If you don't have vision and leadership? And well, a lot of that has to do with attitude. Changing the environment, changing the attitude, changing the camaraderie in your workplace, because that's where innovation is birthed. through people having a great time. And they also, if you create an environment where people ideas are valued, you'll get innovation. Our attitudes have consequences. Imagine you guys as leaders in your organization. People are watching you. They're watching to see, do you think out of the box? Do you care about people? Do you have innovative ideas? Do you value their opinion? They're looking at you. You know, this says, I thought about quitting, but then I noticed who was watching. What about attitudes in your organization? Self-control, willingness to think about alternatives, and cancel unhealthy thoughts. Some of the things to think about. Helping your people to have self-control, controlling their emotions. Look for alternative solutions all the time. How can we do things differently? How can we go green? How can we do things and touch things one time versus multiple times? And then all the negativity from legacy or from people who have been disgruntled, how do we cancel some of that negative energy and replace it with something that's positive and innovative? I like this because it basically says, don't let anyone rent space in your head unless they're a good tenant. I say that because I talk to a lot of people, a lot of folks who have a hard time performing at work because they have so much negative inputs. So we try to promote good thoughts only, good vibes only, and not allowing negative things to take resonance in our heads, because that affects performance. Let some things go. Tell your people, yourself, to let some things go. We give CPR to dead situations, old solutions. We give CPR to things that will not yield benefit or innovate or be innovative. Be willing to let some things go, and teach your people in your organization to be willing to let some things go. Some things that we did, you know, one of the things as a operational excellence consultant, I used to really hate to hear is, well, we've always done it this way. Well, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Well, hey, you know, it's not broke, but you know, you're spending 10 people have to touch it. It's tons of rework. There's ways to do things differently. So stop giving CPR to dead situations. Now, this is really key here. Some of the trials and tribulations that people don't see need to be managed. So what you tend to see and what your people tend to see in the organization is what's above. They see the rewards, they see the medals, they see, you know, the gold stars. But we really need to understand what's under the surface, and how do we create an environment where people can thrive even though they've had some rejection, some sleepless nights, they're stressed out about meeting targets, they have their daily goals, they're trying to stay healthy, because these are the people in your organization. And we tend to focus on what's above the iceberg, but we don't realize that our people are struggling with all of the things that are below. So do we actually care about the things that are affecting the attitudes of the organization, of the people? Because your people are your greatest commodity. I always tell people, do not wait for somebody else to pat you on the back. Stop waiting for others to celebrate you. Set goals, achieve them, and clap for yourself. So all of the folks that I talk to are, who say, well, I didn't receive any award, no accolades for this. My boss doesn't appreciate me. Hey, listen, you got to know that you've done a good job and pat yourself on the back. I'm saying this to some of you, but also this is the type of message that I would like for you to share with your employees. Do what you came here to do and know that you did a great job and pat yourself on the back. It promotes a healthy, strong attitude. Adversity, we all go through it. Your comeback is more powerful than your setback. That speaks for itself. Adversity creates resilience, develops maturity, promotes innovation, and it motivates. It motivates people. So when you have a setback in your department, in your organization, in your company, talk to your folks and say, listen, we're going to learn from this. We're going to grow from this. We're going to mature from this, and we're going to come out better on the other side. But to actually ignore that there was adversity, or that there was something that actually was not as successful as the company, to ignore that is to ignore the reality that they're dealing with that. So you might as well just talk about it and say, listen, what we're going through is creating resilience. It develops our maturity, and we're going to be number one regardless of the fact. You are built for adversity. If there is a Goliath that your people, your company is going up against, that means there's a David in front of you. And we all know the story of David and Goliath. David ran towards the giant, ran towards the issue, and he took it down. Let's think about that in terms of how we actually approach problems in our organization. I tell folks, listen, showing up, there's 10 things that you can do that require zero tolerance. I mean, this is something that you can share with your employees day one when they first start, because it actually creates an attitude and an environment that is productive. Being on time, making an effort, being high in energy, having a positive attitude, being passionate about what you do, using good body language, being coachable, allowing someone to speak into you and to change your thinking, doing a little extra all the time, and being prepared and having a strong work ethic. All great attributes of somebody with a fantastic attitude. When you have an organization that has this type of attitude, the people are willing to do just about anything for the improvement of the organization. I also tell leaders to help their people to be authentically themselves. You be you. There's no one can beat you at being you. And your people need to understand that, and then they need to hear that from the leadership. I remember when I was in my 20s, newly married, we had a dog, and our dog's name was Ubu. You be you. And that was my daily reminder. Be authentic. Help people be authentic. Help people to see their gift and be totally comfortable with being authentic and sharing their gift. Not trying to be like someone else or do someone else's job, but be authentic and real about what you are and what you do and what your gifts are. Try to live a life of no regrets. So yeah, we've talked about, I know you guys are expecting process and systems. I'm still talking about your people. Help them to live a life of no regrets. Not speaking up, failure to take risks, not meeting enough people. If you can help your people to not live a life of regrets, to think positively about their work environment, to think positively about their gifts and how they contribute to your organization, then when you start talking about process innovation and technology and breaking down silos and doing things differently, then you can get them on board. You can begin to break down silos. And always remember, and we try to, this is difficult, because when you really a company that is driven on revenue and trying to do well financially, sometimes we forget about the compassion of caring. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. All the people in your organization, they don't care about your title. They don't care about how much you know, your degrees, your background, until they know that you care. That some of the issues that we're talking about today, that you actually care about the things that are shaping their attitudes, on whether or not they're having a good time at work, whether or not work is enjoyable for them. I tell folks all the time, I went and spoke to all the different departments. I said, listen, you spend 40 to 60 hours of your day at work, 40 to 60 of your week, 40 to 60 hours on average, most people spend at work. If you're not enjoying that, there's a problem. If you're not enjoying 40 to 60 hours that you're putting into your work environment, then we as leaders have problems, because that means they're going to be a revolving door. They're not going to stay. So we have to make sure that we create a caring environment for our employees. Treat yourself, people, employees like they make a difference, and they will. Think out of the box. We've all heard this. Think out of the box. Back in the day, in the 80s, when I was doing business process reengineering with using Mike Hammer's book, I had to constantly tell organizations, you have to think differently. You have to think out of the box. Think outside. Think that like there is no box. What would you do if you had no constraints? Have that type of attitude. Leap. I love this because John Maxwell said it. Leap and grow your wings on the way down. Basically, some things you have to figure out on the way. Sometimes you have to figure out why you're doing it. So take a leap of faith and grow your wings while you're falling. Jump off the cliff and grow the wings while you're falling. Everything is possible. Take the M out. Everything is possible. Leap and grow your wings on the way down. Think positive. This was interesting. It's not the skills you don't have that limits you. It's what you think that you need that limits you. Think about that again. It's not the skills that you don't have that limits you. It's what you think you need that limits you. I remember always wanting to write a book. And I said, God, I don't have the skills. You know, I can't sit and, sitting down and it's like I had all these reasons. I don't have that skill set. I'm not a writer. I said, oh, no. But then I thought about it after I saw this. It's what you think you need that limits you. There's all kinds of ways to accomplish a task that it may not be traditional. Some people represent the thoughts you have rejected for yourself. In your organization, some people represent the thoughts that you have rejected for yourself. I tell people this all the time, because you always wanted to write a book. You see everyone else writing a book, and then you're like, oh, that's something that I've always wanted to do. And then you realize you feel like a failure because you haven't done it. Do it now. Do it now. It's never too late. The point I wanted to bring home, in the midst of all that you're going to hear over the next few days, process, technology, a whole lot of innovative ways to improve your organization. But I wanted you to remember, changed attitudes changes your people, changes your performance, and ultimately changes your culture. Ultimately changes your culture. Thank you. That's about all I have. Hope you have some questions.
Very good, Keith. Outstanding. We have number of questions coming in. I'm gonna encourage the audience to keep providing those questions. I'm gonna come in now with with this umbrella of culture over my head now, because you went all the way from home to culture here, man. So I like it. But let's face it, and I've seen the whole spectrum of comments and feedback from our audience. From the yes, I'm excited, I'm gonna go back and change the world, to if I do that in my organization, they're gonna fire me and everybody who looks like me. So what am I gonna do? So Keith, help our leaders come along this journey here. So if you
Sure.
could help us understand, how did you influence the leadership in your organization and the people in your organization to start having some of these mindsets that you talked about? They're so critical for changing our attitudes and behaviors and shaping our culture. So tell us a little bit, a couple of things that emerged. How did you do this journey with in the area that you're operating on, and you know, what did you learn in that process? What worked, what didn't work for you?
Well, it's interesting because this was sort of a byproduct of my approach when I started with the county and started meeting with all the departments. I started with helping each department and the county look at the vision, mission, goals, and objectives. So from a strategy standpoint, and then I said, okay, we also need to have performance measures. But then as I started to present those in training sessions, a lot of the people issues started to come up. Well, we've always done it that way, or that'll never change, or management's not committed to that, or leadership is. So I said, well, wait a minute, let me pull back and start to talk a little bit, allow them to speak about issues that are concerning them. And I realized that I went back to the days with my mentor, when I remember my first job as an engineer, and the engineering manager came, sat me down, and he said, Keith, always remember R before I. I said, what do you mean, sir? He said, relationship before issue. He said, build relationships with people, and then you can tackle the issues. Because if they don't trust you, if they don't think you care, if they think you have bias motives, or they're not, you're looking at their best interest, it's hard to get them to move in the direction that you want. So I said, okay. And then as I began to meet with all the different departments in the county, it's like, okay, we have to look at how do we change, because I asked a question. I started with a slide that showed this organization versus this organization, and said, where are we today? And this organization was one organization was bad. It was like overload of work. I don't feel appreciated. Management is very political. But on this side of the organization, which was a number 10, it was, we have goals, we have objectives. My feedback is great. My manager cares. Da da da. And all the organizations graded themselves, and it was usually they were like a 3, 2 or 3 or 4. I said, well, I can't begin to make operational improvement and get innovative ideas and implement strategy and vision and all that if majority of the people are disgruntled. And that's where I came up with that slide. It's like everybody couldn't wait to get home for the weekend or take a vacation, but they hated their job. So I said, attitude. And so we began to transform that attitude. And I said, I started every training session, welcome to Disney World. And they would laugh. I was like, yeah, I'm serious. Welcome to Disney World. Because we're getting ready to change the culture of Palm Beach County. We're going to make this a great place for you to work. And then when we started creating teams, it took off. You've seen some of those pictures. That was the first time I did icebreakers across different department teams about their attitude, and it just took off. It became organic.
Very well, and of course, you know, that was done, sounds like, in the context of making operational improvements to the organization and coming up with new innovations. What was the engagement of your senior leadership? I mean, did you have to get permission to talk about some of these issues? Did you just kind of go rogue and start like talking to everybody in the training rooms? What did that look like for you?
Well, I think I was blessed to be in the right situation at the right time. 3 years ago, the the big boss, the county administrator, created a new position, strategic planning and performance management. She had this vision. So it was completely new. So I had a open landscape. I had a white sheet of paper. Now I knew what I wanted to accomplish. So I put all those packages together from years and years of consulting and working in the industry. And I said, okay, strategic planning, performance management, metrics, scorecards, total quality management, business process reengineering, voice of the customer. I said, okay, how do I take all these operational tactics and incorporate it in the county? And I knew I had to get out there and meet all the people. And once I started doing that, I started getting feedback from the people who really needed to be encouraged and motivated and have the attitude and mindset change. So I didn't have any pushback. I had total commitment from the leadership, because the ultimate goal was to have all 30 departments have a strategy that lined up with the umbrella strategy of the county. And how I got there was up to me.
That's excellent. And share, if you could share with the audience a little bit about what the impact has been, what the results have been of having the shift in attitude, where you have emphasized the focus on attitude and behavior before you go into the system, structure, process, technology pieces.
Yeah, it's so exciting. It's kind of like when you have a new baby and the baby begins to walk, and then it begins to run, and then it begins to climb on things. Now, and I always tell folks, the way you know cultural change is taking root is if you can leave and it continues. And what I had to do is migrate from an implementer to a facilitator to a sort of a coach. And so now we have these teams all over the county, and when I see the collaboration, I saw all the success stories where so we created cross-divisional. Each department, there's like 35 departments. Each department has multiple divisions in it, but the divisions weren't talking, and some of the divisions didn't know what the other divisions, but under the same department, were doing. So now that we have cross-divisional teams within a department, then you get 35 departments, and the departments weren't talking. So we get cross-department teams now. And what's come out of that is $1 million grant awards from teams that have collaborated. We got pictures being shared in the county newsletter of all the employees having pop-up appreciation days, department celebrations. You just kind of see all of the genesis of what you created, and it's good to see.
That's fantastic. And Keith, one of the themes that has emerged here has to do with courage as well. Someone needed to have the courage to do some of the things you did. I mean, you clearly exhibited a lot of courage on trying to do those things, because you don't know how people are going to react to this. Some people feel like, you're preaching to me about happiness, who are you to tell me how I should live my life, type of thing. So there's a level of courage and commitment that needs to take place here. And Raghavendra brought up an issue that was really kind of insightful, I thought, that he says that in his organization, there were a couple of change leaders that were doing that. But then there was almost like a little bit of jealousy from senior leaders, because these people that were galvanizing the organization in a way that the senior leaders felt that they're kind of losing their stature in the organization. Yes. I'm just curious about how you address a situation like that. You have to have the courage to be that change agent, but at the same time, you have to be mindful and respectful of some senior leaders who may be a little bit of jealous of the fact that you're kind of taking this organization this direction that they may or may not have control over.
That is an excellent question. I've seen that, and what I've had to do is I've had to make them heroes. I've had to figure a way. I take the back seat, and then I promote the heroes, the leadership of that organization. For instance, there's one department where this thing has just grown like tremendously, and he brings, now this is also the case. The leader has to be secure in himself in order to allow me to come in and talk to the organization. But what I in turn do is I make sure that that leader is rewarded for his leadership, for his for being open to allow, every way you can think of, I promote those leaders, and those leaders then get high mark with the county administrator and the board of county commissioners because their organization is doing all of these things. I take a back seat. I don't receive any credit, so to speak, but the leaders of an organization just are viewed differently because all this is going on in their organization. So they begin to take credit for it. As long as, if I was going in and I became sort of like the god of process improvement or operational excellence, they would shy away because they're like, okay, he's stealing all of our thunder. I just make sure that they are, and it's rightfully placed, because in order for that organization to thrive and do the things they have to have viable leadership, and leadership that's willing to change.
Keith, thank you for bringing the energy, the attitude to complement all those wonderful structure, systems, and technologies that we have for business process management. So this really enriches our journey. It's such a critical factor. I think a lot of leaders of operational excellence and are not as comfortable with the level of vulnerability that's required to lead with the attitude that you described. But I think you have made a very strong case about how critical that is for success. So thank you so much for sharing your insights, for sharing your wisdom with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That was Keith Clinkscales from the Palm Beach County, and in this journey of transformation, what I would term the 3 H's of transformation. You must engage the heads, you must engage the hands, and you must engage the hearts if you want to have a true meaningful transformation in your organization. So excellent perspective from that on engaging the hearts and engaging the hands so that we can engage the heads. So we're gonna wrap up the session now, and at the top of the hour, I'm gonna welcome a leader in the insurance business that's gonna talk about culture in the context of transformation and business process management in insurance. Her session is called Culture Eats Strategy Every Time: How to Go from Wishing to Wisdom When Building a Winning Culture. So I'll see you back at the top of the hour with Cindy Shaw. Some of you have asked questions about, oh my goodness, this is such a great presentation, how can I have access to this? If you came in a little bit late, you didn't hear my introduction early on in the day, remember, all of the sessions are being recorded, and you, as one of the 2,000 plus global registrants for this event, will receive a copy, will receive a link and password to have direct access to the recording of the session. Should be receiving that sometime next week. So you have full access to it, and it's of course a privilege of having it because of our sponsors. And so I want to again thank Camunda, Signavio, and Tokian for sponsoring the event and allowing all of this features and benefits to our global audience. Without further ado, I'm taking a break now. I'll come back at the top of the hour with Cindy Shaw, the Director of Global Business Services for Liberty Mutual Insurance. Thank you.